Chapter 6. The arena awakens. The bell rang, its sharp sound echoing through the halls. I barely had time to gather my things before the intercom buzzed, announcing our next class. Gym. All students, report to the gymnasium for your daily training regimen, the voice droned. Training regimen? I frowned, a flicker of anxiety twisting in my gut. The phrase sounded sterile, almost clinical, but something about it unsettled me. Was this going to be normal PE with dodgeballs and laps, or something far worse? My mind conjured flashes of clawed sparring matches and spell-slinging duels. I swallowed hard, unsure what to expect. The other students didn't seem surprised, though. Monsters and humans alike began shuffling toward the gym, some chatting idly, others wearing expressions of grim determination. The gymnasium was something else entirely. The temperature dropped noticeably as we stepped inside, the air tinged with a faint metallic tang. The hum of unseen machinery vibrated beneath the soles of my shoes, and for a moment, it felt less like a school gym and more like stepping into the belly of some dormant, living machine. Sleek metallic walls gleamed under bright overhead lights, and glowing magical symbols etched across the floor seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive. Slots lined the perimeter, and strange devices hummed quietly in the corners. The space felt futuristic, as if the school had poured all its resources into this one room. We were lined up, humans on one side, monsters on the other. The tension was palpable, a silent divide hanging over the group. A towering lizardman strode to the center of the room, his emerald scales catching the light. His sharp yellow eyes swept over us, lingering on the humans with an almost predatory glint. "I am Coach Ravik," he announced, his voice sharp and commanding. "Here, you will learn to fight, survive, and prove your worth. Humans, hybrids, monsters, it doesn't matter to me. Strength is all that counts. Weakness," his lips curled into a smirk, "will not be tolerated." Before Ravik could continue, another figure stepped forward, his presence calmer but no less commanding. He appeared mostly human, though the intricate flame-like tattoos on his arms shimmered faintly, hinting at something more. "And I am Coach Kale," he said, his tone steady and patient. "While Coach Ravik will push you to your limits, I'm here to ensure you understand the basics. Strength is important, yes, but so is control, especially when it comes to magic." Kale moved to the center of the group, his voice calm yet firm as he began his explanation. "Magic is the essence of life in this world. It flows through the air, the ground, and you. To summon it, you need focus. Close your eyes and feel for the spark within you, something deeper than your heartbeat. Once you find it, draw it out and shape it to your will." Some students closed their eyes, concentrating intently. A few managed to produce faint sparks or glowing orbs, their efforts drawing murmurs of approval. I, however, found it impossible to focus. My attention was pulled to the edge of the gym, where that ominous presence lingered. Dread curled in my stomach like ice water pouring down my spine. Part of me wanted to run, to vanish into the crowd and pretend I hadn't seen him, but curiosity kept me rooted. Who was he? And why did just looking in his direction make my heartbeat stutter like I was prey? The figure stood in the shadows, his crimson eyes glowing faintly. He wasn't looking directly at me, but his aura, suffocating and cold, was impossible to ignore. I tried to look away, but my gaze kept drifting back to him. The symbol on his jacket, barely visible in the dim light, sent chills down my spine. Around him, a few other monsters bore the same grotesque emblem, their expressions unreadable but tense. My stomach churned as a sense of dread settled over me. "Yokog?" Kale's sharp tone snapped me back to reality. I flinched, realizing I hadn't even tried to summon anything. Kale gave me a curious look, but didn't press the issue, moving on to the next student. "To demonstrate," Ravik interrupted, motioning to the floor, "let's start with a warm-up." The slots in the gym floor slid open, and a jungle-like arena rose up from the ground. Massive trees with glowing leaves, dense underbrush, and twisting vines appeared as if from nowhere. The air even felt heavier, humid, and alive. A hulking minotaur stepped forward, its horns gleaming. Across from it, a nervous-looking human gripped a sword. The whistle blew, and the fight began. The minotaur charged, the ground trembling beneath its hooves. The human dodged to the side, swinging his blade in a desperate arc. The sword grazed the minotaur's shoulder, but wasn't enough to stop him. The minotaur roared and countered with a crushing blow, knocking the human's sword aside and pinning him to the ground. The whistle blew again, signaling the end of the fight. Pathetic, Ravik sneered, shaking his head. Next time, try not to waste my time. The human staggered back to his side of the gym, clutching his bruised ribs. The jungle vanished, the floor returning to its sleek metallic state. My heart pounded in my chest, the echoes of the fight still ringing in my ears. I couldn't shake the image of the human lying there, overpowered in seconds. Was that what I was walking into? My fingers tightened around the straps of my backpack, knuckles white. I didn't feel ready, physically or mentally, but I couldn't back out now. Not in front of everyone, not with that crimson-eyed specter still lurking nearby. Next up, Ravik called, his sharp teeth flashing in a grin. Yokog, you're up against Gorak. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder as a massive orc, holding a similarly just as large warhammer, stepped forward. Gorak's green skin was marred by scars, the largest of which framed a grotesque symbol etched into his flesh, a swirling, claw-like spiral entwined with jagged lines that pulsed faintly with a sickly red glow. Something about it made my skin crawl, a twisted insignia that hinted at hatred and power, its meaning just out of reach. The whispers around me revealed his reputation, a flawless win streak. No one had ever beaten him. Chapter 7. A Clash of Willpower. The slots shifted again, forming a craggy, rocky battlefield with jagged edges and steep drops. I stepped onto the platform, my stomach tightening as the ground shifted beneath my feet. The rocky battlefield felt unnervingly real. Each jagged edge, each crevice, seemed like it could swallow me whole. The crunch of loose gravel underfoot and the dry, mineral-scented air catching in my throat only added to the illusion. The holograms weren't just illusions, they were tangible, designed to mimic reality so well it was easy to forget they weren't. Across the arena, Gorak stood tall, his massive frame radiating pure menace. His green skin glistened with sweat, and his broad chest bore a grotesque symbol that sent a chill down my spine. The whispers about his flawless win streak echoed in my ears, each one slicing through my confidence like cold steel. Was I about to be another notch on his record? The whistle blew. Gorak wasted no time. He charged forward, his hammer raised high. The ground trembled beneath his massive feet, each step vibrating through the arena like an impending earthquake. I barely dodged in time, his hammer slamming into the ground where I'd been standing. Shards of rock exploded into the air, one grazing my cheek. "Stay still, human," Gorak growled, his voice guttural and filled with contempt. "It'll be quicker that way." Not a chance. I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline surging through my veins. I had no weapon, no plan, just pure instinct. Gorak swung again, his hammer slicing through the air with terrifying speed. I ducked, feeling the force of the blow pass overhead. "Focus, Percy." Coach Kale's voice rang out, steady but firm. "You need to tap into your magic. Now." Easy for him to say. My heart was pounding, my breaths coming in shallow gasps. I couldn't concentrate, couldn't think. All I could see was Gorak, a mountain of muscle and fury, closing in on me. He swung again, the hammer's impact sending a shockwave through the ground. I stumbled, my legs barely holding me upright. "Pathetic," Gorak sneered, raising his hammer for another strike. Desperation clawed at me. I closed my eyes, blocking out everything. The roaring crowd, Gorak's mocking laughter, even the coaches shouting from the sidelines. I searched for something, anything, deep within myself. And then I found it. A surge of energy erupted from somewhere inside me, unfamiliar but powerful. When I opened my eyes, a shimmering shield of light had materialized in front of me. Gorak's hammer slammed into it, and though the force reverberated through my arms, the shield held firm. The entire gym seemed to pause. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Even some of the monsters looked surprised. Gorak snarled, pulling back and swinging again. The hammer struck the shield once more, sending ripples of energy through the arena. My hands trembled as I braced myself for the next blow. "Just break already," Gorak roared, slamming the hammer down with all his strength. The shield cracked under the pressure, then shattered in a burst of light, sending me stumbling backward. My wristband buzzed and a holographic warning flashed, "Mana dangerously low." I gasped for air, sweat dripping down my face. Gorak was already charging again, his hammer raised for another strike. "No, no, no," I muttered, reaching deep within myself once more. The shield reappeared, weaker than before, but it was enough to block the next hit. Gorak swung again and again, each blow sending shockwaves through the arena. I could feel the energy draining from me, my body growing weaker with each impact. The wristband buzzed again, critical mana levels. But the shield wouldn't break. Students and staff alike began to murmur louder. Some gasped outright. My shield wasn't just blocking, it was holding. Strike after strike, Gorak's warhammer crashed against it, and still it glowed with that strange, stubborn light. The orc's frustration became palpable, his attacks growing sloppier, more desperate. "Why won't you just break?" he bellowed, his rage boiling over. And then with a roar, he raised the hammer high and brought it down with everything he had. I met the blow head-on, bracing with what little energy I had left. The clash sent a blinding shockwave through the arena. The sound cracked like thunder, shaking the walls. Gorak's hammer flew from his hands, spinning through the air until, thunk! It arced back and smacked him squarely on the head with cartoonish precision. His eyes crossed slightly, and he wobbled on his feet for a second before crashing backward like a felled tree. The orc landed hard. His body twitched, then went still, a puff of dust rising around him. I dropped to my knees, my vision flickering. My mind swirled with disbelief. Had I really done it? A human standing against an orc like Gorak and surviving. The aches in my arms, the dull ringing in my ears, the fading shimmer of the shattered shield. It all felt surreal. Was this victory? Or just the eye of a much larger storm? My shield sputtered and vanished. The silence in the gym was deafening. And then the gasps began. He stopped it. With no weapon? That was a raw mana shield. How did he? Kale's whistle cut through the buzz. Draw! Gorak stirred. His hand closed around the handle of his hammer. He stood, trembling with fury. His glare burned into me. Then he lunged. A blur of fury and motion. In that split second, my mind jumped. Is this it? Is this how I go out? Squashed like a bug in gym class. I couldn't move. I couldn't even lift my arm. The hammer was a blur, until Kale intercepted it with one hand. Flames erupted from his tattoos as he held the weapon in place. That's enough. The silence returned, heavier this time. Gorak's teeth bared in a snarl, but he stepped back, slowly, reluctantly. Kale turned to me, offering a hand. You held your ground, you earned your place. I took it. Barely. Around us whispers continued, rising like a tide. Disbelief, intrigue, fear. As I limped from the arena, I felt it again. That presence. Watching. Waiting. The crimson eyes in the shadows burned brighter than ever. Kale leaned close, just enough for me to hear. Heat radiated faintly from the glowing tattoos on his arms, as if a forge simmered beneath his skin. There was strength in his stillness, a kind of quiet power that made the air around him feel charged, like standing too close to a lightning storm. You've got potential, Percy. Don't waste it. Chapter 8. A taste of normal. The echoes of the gym still rang in my ears as I stumbled out into the hall. My legs felt like jelly and my head throbbed. Even after a quick stop at the locker room to splash cold water on my face, the surreal weight of what had just happened refused to leave. I'd drawn with an orc, an undefeated orc, and somehow I was still alive. That realization twisted in my gut like a knot, part pride, part disbelief, and a whole lot of confusion. Was this luck, or was there something inside me I didn't understand yet? The hallways buzzed with conversation as students moved between classes. Snatches of whispers followed me as I trudged toward the cafeteria. Did you hear about the new human? The one who fought Gorak? A human with a shield? Impossible. That draw was a fluke. Gorak should have crushed him. I kept my head down, clutching my bag tightly. The last thing I needed was more attention. By the time I reached the cafeteria, the tantalizing smells of roasted meat, rich spices, and wait, was that blood? Hit me like a wall. The scent was strange and heady, making my nose wrinkle and my stomach twist in confusion and mild nausea. The cavernous space seemed more like a feast hall out of a fantasy novel than a school cafeteria. Gothic chandeliers cast dim, moody lighting over long, polished tables where students, human and otherwise, gathered in cliques that seemed impossibly diverse. I got in line, grabbing a laminated menu from the stack at the front. My stomach growled, demanding food, but as I skimmed the options, confusion quickly replaced hunger. Roasted cockatrice wings, extra crispy. Sanguine delight, type O+. Cursed mushroom medley with ghost pepper aioli. Howled venison, freshly hunted. I blinked, hoping I'd misread something. Nope. It really said, flaming hellhound stew. What the heck is dragonfly soufflé? I muttered under my breath. Having trouble deciding, Percy? I jumped, nearly dropping the menu. Jason had appeared beside me, his tray already loaded with an eclectic mix of dishes. A suspiciously red steak sat next to what looked like a bowl of glowing soup. Yeah, I stammered. I don't even know what half of this stuff is. He peered over my shoulder, then burst out laughing. Dude, you got the monster menu. No wonder you're confused. The what? Yeah, there's a separate menu for humans, Jason said, still chuckling. Guess they handed you the wrong one. As if on cue, Morgan sauntered up, her pale fingers clutching a tray with an elegant goblet of something dark and viscous. She glanced at my menu, then raised an eyebrow. You're brave, she said with a smirk. It's not bravery, Jason interjected. He just didn't know. Look at him. He's practically sweating bullets over serpent stew. I thought this was normal here. I snapped, glaring at both of them. Morgan's smirk softened into something almost apologetic. Here. She handed me a different menu, this one marked with a small emblem of crossed forks. This is the human menu, though, honestly, some of the dishes here are pretty questionable too. I opened it, relief washing over me as I saw familiar options like grilled chicken sandwich and mac and cheese. Finally, I muttered. Jason leaned in closer, his mischievous grin returning. You know, this is how rumors start. By tomorrow, half the school will think you're secretly a monster. I gave a weak laugh, rubbing the back of my neck. Fantastic. Maybe they'll start tossing silver at me just to be sure. I groaned. Great. That's just what I need. Morgan sipped delicately from her goblet, her red eyes gleaming with quiet amusement. Well, at least it keeps things interesting. You'd be surprised how quickly people here jump to conclusions. We found a table near the corner of the cafeteria, away from the louder groups. Jason was still snickering about my menu mishap as I finally managed to take a bite of my very normal grilled cheese sandwich. So, Jason began, leaning back in his chair. You gonna tell us how you managed to tie with Gorak? That guy's been undefeated since, well, forever. Morgan's gaze sharpened, her previous amusement replaced by quiet curiosity. Most humans can't summon a shield that can survive one hit, she said. How did yours survive multiple? I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling like my sandwich was stuck in my throat. Was it fear? The uncertainty of what I'd just done? Or maybe the creeping realization that this was only the beginning? Honestly, I don't know, it just happened. I was cornered, and something inside me just clicked. Lucky, Jason said, though his tone held a hint of admiration. Morgan tilted her head, studying me like I was some kind of puzzle. Luck or not, you've caught attention. Be careful, Percy. This school isn't exactly forgiving. Her words hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. Well, that's comforting, I muttered, trying to lighten the mood. Jason grinned, clearly picking up on my attempt. Hey, if things get dicey, just stick with us. I mean, I'm good at biting people. Morgan rolled her eyes, but didn't deny it. For the first time that day, I felt a flicker of something like hope. Despite the chaos, despite the weird food and the even weirder students, maybe I wouldn't have to face it all alone. Chapter 9. A day like no other. The day felt like it had lasted a lifetime. I slumped into the worn seat of the bus, my body aching from the gym and my mind racing to keep up with everything I'd seen, heard, and unfortunately, felt. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting the world outside in hues of orange and crimson. The bus smelled faintly of mildew and burnt rubber, a stark contrast to the events that had unfolded earlier that day. At least the windshield had been repaired. I couldn't help but glance toward the front of the bus, half expecting another frog demon to come flying through it. The ride home was quieter than I'd expected. Most of the students, human and monster alike, seemed preoccupied with their own thoughts. A few whispered conversations hummed softly, but none of the earlier chaos lingered. I leaned back against the seat, exhaling slowly. My thoughts drifted to the gym and the confrontation with Gorak. That fight had been terrifying enough, but the real nightmare had been afterward, in Miss Desra's office. Her serpentine tail had coiled and uncoiled as she stared at the holographic display on my bracelet. I could still hear her voice, clipped and low. This thing has bonded to you, she'd said, her golden eyes narrowing. It cannot be removed, not until death. The way she'd said it sent a shiver through me. But what had really unnerved her were the glitches. My mana reading was practically non-existent, but the spell variety section kept flickering. defensive spells, elemental spells, and even some unreadable runes that made her jaw tighten. "It's unprecedented," she had muttered under her breath, more to herself than to me. I had no idea what it meant, but her reaction had been enough to set my nerves on edge. I turned my thoughts away from the bracelet, focusing instead on the symbol I'd seen tattooed on Gorak's chest. That crest had appeared again and again throughout the day, etched into lockers, drawn on notebooks, even worn as jewelry by certain students. And every time I saw it, the same chilling presence followed. The looming figure from my classes, tall, regal, and radiating an almost suffocating aura, seemed to command silent respect from anyone bearing the symbol. I didn't know his name, but his very existence felt like a warning. The bracelet on my wrist gave a faint pulse, its holographic display flickering for a moment before going dark again. Miss Desra's words echoed in my mind. "This will save your life, or end it." When the bus finally screeched to a halt in front of my house, I stepped off and took a deep breath of the cool evening air. The quiet of the neighborhood felt surreal after the day I'd had. Crickets chirped in the hedges. Porch lights buzzed softly. A cat darted across the sidewalk and vanished into a bush. Everything looked painfully normal. I trudged through the front door, kicking off my shoes and heading straight for my room. The chaos of unpacked boxes greeted me, but my eyes were immediately drawn to my desk. My computer was set up, humming faintly. A sticky note was affixed to the monitor. "Be home late tonight. There's pizza in the fridge. I set up your computer for you, and we've got internet access now. Enjoy, Mom." For a moment, a flicker of gratitude broke through the exhaustion. I flopped onto my bed, staring at the glow of the computer screen. Notifications swarmed the desktop, news articles, breaking headlines, and live streams. My heart sank as I read the top headline: "Monsters reveal themselves to the world governments." Videos and photos filled the screen, showing creatures I'd only seen in nightmares or on the bus that morning. They weren't hiding anymore. I couldn't stop reading. One article showed diplomats shaking hands with fanged ambassadors. Another detailed mixed species schools being tested worldwide. Mistic High just happened to be one of the first. Every headline was a nail in the coffin of the life I used to know. My breath caught. This wasn't just a bad day. It was the beginning of something world-altering, and I was right in the middle of it. Eventually, I turned away from the screen and stared at the ceiling. I must have drifted off because I was suddenly somewhere else. The air around me was thick, humid, and electric. I stood in a vast, colorless void, my feet barely touching the surface below. In the distance, a colossal tree stretched into the heavens, its roots snaking through floating islands. The sky rippled like water, and something ancient watched me from beyond the horizon. The bracelet glowed white-hot on my wrist. Then I saw a silhouette step from the shadows of the tree. Not a monster, not a human. Me, or something that looked like me, cloaked in flowing light and shadow. Its eyes were hollow. "You are not ready for what lies ahead," it said, voice low and echoing like a memory buried deep in my bones. "Brace yourself, for what the trials to come will test your very soul." It whispered. I woke with a jolt, heart pounding. My room was still. The computer screen had dimmed. The pizza in the fridge was probably cold by now, but something had changed. Something inside me had shifted. I didn't know what the dream meant. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But I did know this. Whatever tomorrow brought, I couldn't go back to being the same kid who stepped onto that bus this morning. Chapter 10. Waking to Reality. The alarm clock blared like a cruel joke, yanking me from restless sleep. I groaned and smacked it into silence. For a second, I lay there, eyes half shut, clinging to the faint hope that everything that had happened was just a bad dream. Maybe I'd wake up in my old room. No monsters, no wristband, just normal life. Then my arm shifted, and the weight of the bracelet on my wrist shattered that hope. I stared at the device, its smooth, futuristic surface catching the dim light of my room. The faint soreness in my limbs from yesterday's fight confirmed the truth. This was no dream. "Great, back to the chaos," I muttered, throwing my legs over the edge of the bed. I trudged over to my desk and booted up my computer. The hum of its startup was oddly comforting, even if I knew what awaited me. Sure enough, the screen exploded with notifications. The world still abuzz with the revelation that monsters were real. Monsters are real, A new era for humanity. Global governments respond to monster coexistence. Public panic or peace, citizens divided over the truth. I scrolled through headlines, clicking on a few. Clips of monstrous transformations in crowded cities played, the reactions ranging from awe to outright terror. One video showed a werewolf transforming in broad daylight, people screaming and running as it snarled. Another showed a human shaking hands with what looked like a naga, both smiling for the camera. I clicked on a local news segment titled, "How the World Changed Overnight." A reporter stood outside a government building, flanked by security and an anxious crowd. Just 5 days ago, supernatural creatures, monsters as the public calls them, revealed themselves in a synchronized announcement across all major nations. They claim to have lived among us for centuries, hidden through enchantments and agreements with world leaders. Now, with tensions rising in their hidden communities and humans discovering their existence by accident, they've chosen to reveal the truth before panic spiraled further. The footage cut to scenes of public transformation events, then interviews with people claiming their best friends, co-workers, and even parents had come out as non-human. My heart clenched as I opened a private group chat, one I hadn't checked since the move. The messages were a whirlwind. "Y'all seeing this? Marco's a vampire? My dog isn't a dog. She turned into a kitsune. I cried for 2 hours and then fed her chicken. I knew Mrs. Gibbons had too many cats. Turns out she's a sphinx." Attached were blurry images, a few clearer than they should have been. Someone mid-shift, tails appearing, horns curling, eyes glowing. Monster reveals had become public fodder, memes and arguments all at once. "Guess not everyone's freaking out," I muttered, leaning closer. An article further down the page caught my eye. A grainy photo of a symbol, blurred but unmistakable. It was the same decapitated figure I'd seen on students' clothing at school. Rumors suggest the symbol belongs to an extremist faction known as the Anti-Human Association. Little is known about their goals or leadership, but sources indicate they oppose human-monster coexistence. My stomach twisted as I stared at the image. So, it wasn't just a school thing. It was something much bigger. I didn't know what that meant for me yet, but it couldn't be good. The bracelet on my wrist flickered, pulling my attention away from the screen. Strange runes began cycling across its holographic display, most of them unreadable. Then, for a split second, the text stabilized. Aura shift, unstable. I blinked, my heart skipping a beat. Aura shift? What's that supposed to mean? Before I could make sense of it, the display glitched again, and the runes dissolved into static. I frowned at the bracelet. It was acting weirder than ever, and I had no idea if that was a good thing or a really, really bad thing. Leaning back in my chair, I stared at the symbol on the screen, then down at the bracelet. Nothing was adding up. What was this aura shift? Why was the bracelet glitching so much? And what did this anti-human association have to do with the school? "Why me?" I muttered to myself. "Why is it always me?" "Percy, breakfast." My mom's voice jolted me from my thoughts. I shut the computer off and made my way to the kitchen. The smell of scrambled eggs and toast greeted me, but I wasn't in the mood to eat. Mom, already dressed in her scrubs, sipped her coffee as she stood by the counter. "Morning, sweetie. Grab a plate before I have to head out," she said with a tired smile. I sat down and grabbed a piece of toast, staring at it for a moment before blurting out, "Did you know about the monsters?" Her coffee cup paused midair. "Yes, Percy, I knew." I dropped the toast, my appetite gone. "And you didn't think to tell me? You moved us here, knowing this place is full of them?" She sighed and set her coffee down. "I thought you already knew. Percy, I'm sorry. Everything happened so fast. The job offer, the move. They swore this town would be safe for us. They promised no harm would come to you." I glared at her, my frustration bubbling over. "Safe? Mom, I got into a fight yesterday. Does that sound safe to you?" Her face tightened, but her eyes darted away for just a second, a flicker of something she wasn't saying. "What kind of fight?" "Just a fight," I mumbled, avoiding her gaze. "Doesn't matter." "Percy." She started to say something, but stopped, shaking her head. "No more secrets, okay? I promise." I frowned, watching her carefully. There was something in her tone, in the way she avoided looking directly at me. She knew more than she was letting on, but I wasn't sure pressing her would get me any answers. "Fine. I muttered, standing up and grabbing my bag. "But if I end up eaten or something, I'm blaming you." "Be careful, Percy," she said softly as I left the room. It wasn't just motherly concern, it sounded like a warning. I stormed back to my room, yanking my bag off the chair. The bracelet hummed faintly as I glanced at it. My thoughts lingered on the runes, on the aura shift, and the chaos swirling around me. I stepped out the door, bracing myself for another day at Mystic High.
Thank you so much for sticking with me through chapters 6 to 10 of Mystic High. These chapters really begin to crack open the heart of the story. The arena battles, the first real taste of danger, and the dawning realization that Percy's life will never return to what it once was. It means the world to me that you've taken the time to read or listen to this journey I've been building in my head and heart for the past 14 years. Every scene, every character, every spark of magic feels more alive because of people like you who choose to dive in and experience it with me. If you've made it this far and want to keep walking beside Percy on this chaotic, magical path, I'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to read the full book for yourself, you'll find the link posted below. Thank you again for supporting this story. It's more than just a book to me. It's a dream finally being brought to life.
The darkest springs will soar above with silver wings. We'll show the wings. Laughter hides the pain inside, but now we rise, a spark of light. The stars will guide us, show the way to the dawn of a brighter day. To shattered dreams and broken ties, a new horizon fills the skies. The bonds we forge will never fade. Together we'll fight unafraid. We're chasing the light of every day, breaking through the shadows in our way. With every step we rise anew. The dawn will come, we'll see it through. Through stormy nights and endless rain, we'll find our strength, endure the pain. Our voices rise, our battle cry, chasing the light across the sky. Reach our breaks, the light shines near. Together we'll face what we all fear. In this world we'll find our place, chasing the light in endless grace. Through every shadow, every test, we'll stand as one and give our best. The journey ends where hope will stay, forever chasing the light of every day. Every day, we're chasing the light of every day, breaking through the shadows in our way. Through the fear, through the fight, we're holding on with all our might. Each step forward, hearts aglow. Through endless trials, our strength will grow. No matter what the darkness brings, we'll soar above.